Hi, I'm John Waterhouse, and this is our Summer Prosperity Review. Thank you for joining us for another class. And I'm knowing that this experience for you has value, that you're learning from these recordings that we're sharing, and that you're finding your life being more abundant these days. So as we begin, we always start with our increased income treatment. And if you know it, please say it with me. And if you don't, it's on our website. And if you register for the increased income program, you'll have a copy of it there, and you can do it as we recommend every day and find that there are amazing things that happen in your life. I'm not sure whether I've shared this or not, but there have been people that that have done this this prosperity work, doing this treatment and having a shift in consciousness, and have created amazing outcomes in their lives, including winning the California lottery and being given cars and houses, and quite amazing things have happened to people through this process. And I encourage you to give it a go. And if you're already in the program, be sure to do that every day. Let that thing sink deep into your psyche. And so let's do it right now. Join me in this. I, John, know that God is the source of all supply, and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect wealth, perfect health, and perfect happiness. This word, which I speak in faith believing, now activates universal law, and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now, and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class, and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good, and so it is. Yes, that's the treatment. So again, do that as often as you can and see what happens. And now, let's have this wonderful class, and I'll see you at the end.
You get what you can give. We're going to chant our class. I want you to have your checks written out. You might want to consider doing that before you get into class so that you can stand up so that I can ask you, are you ready? Yes! Are you ready? Yes! Then the universe says yes. Yes, say it. Yes! 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 I feel and know that God is the source of all supply, and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word, which I speak in faith knowing, now activates universal law, and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now, and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class, and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good, and so it is. I know that God is the source of all supply, and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word, which I speak in faith knowing, now activates universal law, and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now, and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of
valuable information?
Yes.
All right. It was interesting. I was reading the material for tonight, and some of his stories were just so dated. And I thought, can people get past this? You know, but truly the base information is incredibly valuable. So thank you for confirming that that's so great. So moving along, Barbara actually presented in her presentation tonight secret 9 and 12. So we're going to do 10 and 11 now. Okay, we're going to start with self-control. First thing I want to say about self-control is it doesn't mean that it's something that you want to use to control yourself. It's not that kind of control. It's actually about the self, which is you, controlling your outcomes. That's what self-control is really about. It's not about behavior control. It's about doing what needs to be done. It is actually about behavior control, but it's not just a rote thing. This is really an idea that all of us should look at, especially. You have an idea what that is?
Static in the attic.
What?
You don't hear that?
Yeah, in the speaker.
Yeah, I hear it.
That one over there.
That's both of them.
Yeah.
It's that one for you because you're over there. So what I want to share with you are my ideas on self-control. We have a number of things that I want to share about that. But the truth is that we as human beings, man. All over the world, Barbara is becoming so techy.
She really turns you on.
I have no problem with that. That's a good thing.
I accept it.
All right. Self-control. We all have dreams. Many of us have plans. Many of us have plans for what's going to unfold in our lives. But it really does take some clear intention and clear action to bring about things in our lives. Now, I don't want to say that we individually have to do everything to make something so in our lives. That's not true. But we create the impetus to move forward. It's our job to be at the helm, to be in charge, to know what's going on. It's our job to guide the course. That doesn't mean that all the wonderful things that happen simply because of your intention aren't happening. They are. But how real is an intention if you state it and then go sit down on the couch and watch TV for endless hours? Obviously, you're not really living your intention. So the idea of self-control was Fenwick's way of saying, you know, give this some energy and bring it about. Don't allow the winds to impact what you're doing. You do it. You make it happen. And you do that by being disciplined and being focused on where you're going. So, I have come up with 10 strategies for developing self-control. You know me and my list. I'm always trying to create a list. So here we go. We're going to start right at the top of the list with the first one, cultivate a can-do attitude. Now this is something real. It's like average people have a challenge and they think they're done, or they think it's going to be really hard. I hear people all the time say, oh, you know, it's really hard to do that. Because that's their attitude toward it. And what I'm suggesting with this is, you can do whatever you set your mind to. So your can-do attitude is, I can. Yes, I can do that. Yes, this thing that is before me is fully within the scope of my powers, which happen to be unlimited. But the focus that I'm seeking is in me to create that outcome. So I have the ability to make that happen. And you have to start with that kind of a can-do attitude, or the problems overwhelm you. The challenges become the focus. But the focus is, no, I can do this. No matter what it is, I can do this. And with that attitude, you get an outcome that is probably in alignment with that very idea. The idea of dealing with stress is always easier if you believe you're bigger than the problem. If you're looking at something and you think that that's so ominous, you don't have any idea how to deal with it or what to do, that's fine not to have an idea how to deal with it. But you must immediately know that you're bigger than it, and it is not in charge of your outcome. You're in charge of your outcome. And so when those problems happen, you just work them out, and you're ready for it. And that comes from a can-do attitude. Know your intended outcomes. This we talked about before, but it's still incredibly important to understand that having a desire is not an intended outcome. If you put your energy into wanting something, then what you get is the energy of wanting. So you must move beyond that, and you must envision the outcome that you seek. You must have a clear idea of what it is. Now, it may change. It may change 100 times. So it's not that important that it be the absolute all forever outcome that you're seeking. Just that today, with what I know and what I feel, this is the outcome that I'm calling into my experience. This is the outcome that I'm working toward. And you should make that as absolutely solid for you as though it is the ultimate of all time outcomes. And then you find out that there's other information, there's other parts of it, there's other things to know about it, and you learn these things, and it shifts you a little bit. Well, you know what? I'm gonna rather than saying that's my outcome that I'm seeking, I'm really going to do it a little bit to the left. Okay, nothing wrong. We're revising these ideas in our minds all the time, but you must have an outcome in mind. You must have that intention to work from, even if it morphs, even if it's flexible and stretches into different things. It's okay. That's not a problem. You're still moving in that general direction. You still learn. And part of the process of creating anything in our lives is a learning process. We have to be open to the possibilities of it. And apparently someone said those are infinite. So, some of you may not have been here yesterday. So the idea that we're working with here is that having an outcome that I absolutely intend to experience, to have in my life, is the only way I'm going to get to anything close to that place. So, and here's something that's not an intended outcome. I'm going to be healthy. That's just too vague. You know, when you're creating an outcome, it has some pieces to it. And that's what I want to go through with you now. This is called the SMART approach to intended outcomes. And it would be that your intended outcome is specific. It's not general and vague. Because you want a compelling reason to get to it. And the more specific you are about what you want, the more chance you are going to be able to get there and get to it. So the idea of specific also is how we refine it. Could it change? Again, yes, it could absolutely change. But at the moment that you're putting it out there, let it be specific. Know what color it is. Know what every characteristic of it is. Know when you're going to be there. You know, that there's this thing that creates this conflict in people in our movement because when we do spiritual mind treatment, we know it's so now. But when you're creating outcomes, one of the specific things is to know when that's going to show up, that or sooner. But that by this date, this year, whenever it is next year, by March 30th, 2019, this will be achieved. What does that do? Well, that's create some tension, which is good. There's nothing wrong with this tension that we're talking about. The idea that what you want is out there and where you are is not at that same place. When you claim it and you're very specific about it, there creates a tension, and that's good because if you think about like a rubber band, when you pull it and create tension, where does it want to go? Closer to each other. And that's what you're creating, is a sense of tension that will draw you toward it, not one that will stand in your way. It's a good thing that it won't be until March 19th, because you got some stuff to do. You got some stuff to think about, some stuff to create out of that. And in the meantime, the universe is responding, and everything is happening that's supposed to happen, and you're learning.
But that tension of that place out there where you are specifically knowing it's going to happen helps you do that. Now, does every time I write down a date on an intended outcome, do I achieve it by that time? No. But I guarantee you, I'm closer than I would have been. Sometimes I get there before I was expecting. I go, whoa, that's okay, that's great. You know, and then you regroup from that position. But if you get to the place and it hasn't happened, you don't beat on yourself, you don't make yourself wrong, you don't say that God doesn't work, you don't say the science of mind is full of garbage because I did this and it didn't work. That's not it. It's that you want that tension to draw you closer to it all the time and to draw it closer to you. Specifics really help with that. So writing them down and having this well defined is great. Actually, I should probably have talked about dates under measurable, because a date would be a measurable. But whatever else is measurable on it is good to put in the specifics of this as well. Things like the qualities that I'm going to experience when it shows up. That's measurable. Am I going to have that sense of great joy and accomplishment when this is complete? You bet I am. That's measurable. So whatever the terms are that you want to put down is something that you can say, okay, this is what I see happening, and then when you get there, that or something more wonderful happens. That's measurable. So you want a measurable. Specific and measurable are two of your characteristics in creating this. Attainable. Now some say, you know, shoot for the stars and maybe you'll hit the moon. Okay, that's all right. You can do outrageous things. I love to do outrageous things. I love to have crazy things on my list that I really want to do. And I want to know that I have the ability to attain them. You know, I had this great desire in me, and I wrote it in my work on my outcomes. I was going to meet Sai Baba, and then he died.
Oh no.
Well, I had nothing to do with it. But he left this world, and I never did get to meet him. I have many close friends that have spent time with Sai Baba. I had to be okay with that. That's not wrong. That's the beauty of expectations, is that they're great to get you motivated and moving in the direction of them. But if something happens and that's not going to happen, don't lose sleep over it. It's okay. I gave a great talk on Sai Baba after he passed. You know, and it was mystical to me. So I had that connection, you know, and well, I'm there. I'm going to tell that story real quick. I think I have time. Sai Baba made his transition in the same week that Osama bin Laden died. So I contrasted their two lives. And I thought it was a fascinating thing, because they both had a lot of money in their lives, but look how they used it, and look what they brought, and look what they brought, or look at least what bin Laden brought down on himself. Where when Sai Baba passed, they had these massive events in his honor for all the good that he brought to the world. And those two were a real dichotomy, that they would go at the same time. So I ended the thing with vibhuti. Some of you know what vibhuti is, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Sai Baba used to just sit and put his hands out like this, and this ash would fall from his hands, and they would collect it up. And they said they had like 55-gallon drums full of vibhuti. And I was downtown once, and a friend down there that owns a shop, and he told us about the vibhuti. I'd never heard of it. And he said, I'll bring it out. And he brought out this little container. And he took a little spoon and had us hold our hands like this, Barbara and I were there. And he put a little thing of vibhuti in my hand. And I looked and I said, what do I do with it? He said, you eat it. Okay. So I just licked it right off my hand, licked it clean. And I held my hands there, and we're just talking and all. And I looked back down, and there was another pile of vibhuti. I know.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Oh,
So I had acquired a container, this beautiful little wooden container of vibhuti, and Sai Baba had left, and so there wasn't going to be any more vibhuti. So rather than covet my vibhuti, I had everybody that day come forward. Anybody in the room that day?
Yes.
Y'all remember? So I took my, I got me a little spoon. Yes, probably it was a Coke spoon, but I never used it. And I took my little spoon, and people came up there, the center right in the center, and I gave each one. The amount I was given the first time I did it. And it was interesting, at the end of the celebration, everybody that had wanted it came up and got it, and I tapped it, the little box on the corner, and I poured it into my hand, and it was a perfect portion. Just like all the others. And we ate the vibuti and celebrated the life of Sai Baba. And what a mystical experience to do that. It was just lovely. And today I have more vibuti than I've ever had.
Just briefly, for those of us who don't know who Sai Baba was.
Sai Baba was an avatar, an Indian mystic, who had a real sense of himself. Once he was asked, why can you do all these mystical things and we can't? And he said, oh, it's very simple. I know that I'm God. You just think you're God. You know, okay. And so he touched many, many lives all over the world, built hospitals, did all kinds of amazing things. So he truly was one of those avatars of our time. Anyway, I don't remember why I was telling that story, but it had something to do with intended outcomes. Oh, I'm in the middle of this, aren't I? I should continue with that. I've got to tell you though, that was fun. Rewarding. Whatever it is that you're setting up as an outcome has to have rewards. You don't do it because somebody else needs you to. I'm not saying don't help people. It's fine to help people, but don't build your life and the outcomes of your life out of someone else's dictating to you what that should be. It should be yours, and it should feed you to the depths of your being by being, not only by attaining it and achieving that outcome, but by the path to get there should always be rewarding. You should always, as we talked about last week, celebrate your accomplishments even along the way. Okay, so that's that, and then time-based. That's where I should have talked about time, about the idea of using a set point in time. And again, the beauty of this is, don't get rigid with it. Let it help you. Make it a tool. You know, I've found in using physical tools that if I use the right one, the job is easy. If I don't, if I pick something else to get the job done, it's hard and things break. You know, so the idea of making it work, to me, is a smart idea of making your outcomes specific, measurable, attainable, rewarding, and time-based. Okay, there we go. Let's look at number 3. Identify what motivates you to be successful. Our lives fit together like a matrix or something like a puzzle. And when we have the separate pieces, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It does to some degree. But the master plan doesn't show up until it's all together. And what there is in that master plan of your life is something that feeds you, that juices you, that excites you. It motivates you. It's different for everybody. Thank God it's different for everybody. We don't have to do the same things. We don't have to have the same desires. We're all on our own path, and it's all God's path. It can only help if you imagine that there's an outcome out there that you want, to think about how that fits into your whole life structure. How is this thing? And I always do it by comparing this thing that I call an outcome to my purpose. Is it in alignment with my purpose? Does it fit the fabric of my life? And if it does, it's worth it. If it doesn't, I'm gonna rethink it. Because maybe that's not, maybe I just think that would be cool to do. Because God knows in my life, I've had plenty of things that I thought were cool to do, but I wasn't highly motivated to get to them. So what is the thing in the fabric of your being that is calling you? And I'm avoiding the word why, because we're going to do that in another one of these. But it's really about what excites you, what thrills you about this. Well, how can you get really into it, even when it's not here yet, when you're working on it incrementally in your life in little pieces? How is it that if you're writing, that you really want to get up at 5 and do that, when you'd much rather get up at 8? You know, what is it that motivates you to move forward? What excites you? How do you feel about this trek that you're on to do this work? That's what I believe that this one means. Be self-confident. Absolutely, it's our job to know who we are, to know that we're bigger than the problem, that whatever we face as a challenge is not insurmountable. Never, ever, ever, ever is anything insurmountable. And that by having a sense of ourselves and feeling good about ourselves, that helps us attain the things we want in life. If we have a lesser opinion of ourselves, if we don't feel confident in our abilities, and maybe there are abilities that are being called on, we're being called on to show up that we've never developed. That we maybe don't know how to do something that needs to be done. But do we have the self-confidence at that point to learn it? To research it, to study it, to know what it is that I need to know to get where I want to get. I think one of the coolest things about having any kind of a major outcome in your life is that you have to grow into it. You don't just go get it. You have to change to open up that possibility in your life. You have to change by becoming more centered in who you are, more aware of how you fit nicely with this outcome. And as you grow in that understanding of yourself, and it really all is built in confidence, as you become clear about that, you grow closer and closer to it, so that when it shows up, it feels so natural. It doesn't. You don't have to go, hey, look at me, because you got there because it's your place to be. And to me, that's a sense of ourselves, sensing that we really have those abilities within us. That idea of us being the presence of the divine is not just a notion, that it's a reality. It's a pragmatic tool for understanding life. That the presence of God dwells at the point of me and dwells at the point of you. Your job is to know it for you. My job is to know it for me and for you. Okay, so that's what I get out of being self-confident. Here's the why. Know why you're determined to achieve this outcome. Why is such an interesting notion. It's subjective. And it doesn't mean that the why that you would state if someone said, so, why are you so keen on doing this? It doesn't mean that won't change. It could. But having a why am I spending all this time, all this energy, all this prayer work, all this clearing my mind and everything else I'm doing to get to this place? Why am I doing this? What do I get out of this? What's the payoff? And as much as we talk about money in this class, please don't let that be your payoff. Let that be an auxiliary part of the process, that because you're doing something you love so much and you give so much of yourself to other people with it, that they will pay you good money to do it. Yes. I gotta tell you, when Brian Byra said to me, made me promise him that when I begin this public speaking career that I'm never to take a fee of less than $5,000. I had to breathe into that. Yeah, I had to breathe into that. And it hasn't happened yet. It's still evolving. But the idea to me makes a lot of sense. And I remember when I asked him if he would come to California and do a board breaking with 700 people at the Asheville Market campground. And he said, are you paying for this? I said, well, there's an amount. And it was $5,000. And he said, no, I can't do it. And he was so joyous with it. It wasn't like he was too good to do it for that. He has standards in his work. Isn't that great? Isn't that, I was not offended. I was like, I love that you won't come do it. I'm not sure what we're going to do. And he said, well, you're going to do it. I am? And I did, and it was one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life, having over 500 people chanting and clapping and screaming people's names, and just coming unglued when someone would break through a board at the end. You know, it was, those of you that were here the first night, you got a sense of that. Imagine that with 500 people. And there's nobody for me to turn to and say, what should I do next? It was just me. And it was just so glorious. You know, that was one of those moments. And I didn't know how to do it, but I learned. And I was glad to learn. And boy, he grilled me too. I did sessions with him in our sanctuary where I stood up on the stage and talked to a crowded room that he was the only one in, and told the stories he said I should tell. And frankly, that was such a growth experience for me. I have such gratitude for that, because it was his material. I had to own it if I was going to get there and do it, or I'd do something entirely different. And I wasn't entrusting myself to do something that I wasn't trained to do without following the guidance of my teacher. And he was, and it was brilliant. And again, one of the most wonderful moments of my life, of being in that exhilarating space with all those people. You know, you're having those things in your life too. This is what we do. This is when we have an outcome that we are so, and yours can be very gentle. It doesn't all have to be screaming. But whatever it is that really is your why, know it. Be able to say it clearly. This is why I'm doing this. And if you can do that, then you're headed in the right direction, and you shouldn't doubt yourself for a moment. Number 6, avoid temptation. Because the devil when we set outcomes in our lives, they're only going to be in 4 different things. They're going to be about our health, about our money, about our relationships, or about the work we bring to the world. That includes everything that we do. Some of it overlaps, of course, but there's nothing that doesn't fall in those criteria, those categories. So when the idea of temptation is to think about this thing you're calling into your life. Let's take a normal, simple one. I'm going to lose 25 pounds. Someone could easily have that kind of an intention. I'm going to lose it by the end of the year. If that were my intention, there are some things I should clearly avoid, and not, how much victimizing do you feel when you have set this intention to modify your diet so that you're going to drop the weight, and then you find yourself in places where high caloric intake is just part of what people are doing. It doesn't make any sense, so don't go to those places. In this particular model, don't allow yourself to have to struggle. I mean, and how much of that do we put on ourselves? All of it. Because no one makes us do anything. Nobody handcuffs us and carries us into the chocolate store. If that's something we said we're not going to be doing. No, we walk in there ourselves. So the idea is avoid any temptations that you can anticipate. They'll still happen, but as best you can, don't be improper about it. Let me read you my examples. If you're in a specific eating plan, get rid of the foods that you've agreed not to eat. Like, don't leave them in your house. If you're quitting smoking, don't have a stash of cigarettes hidden away somewhere. Don't have ashtrays around. Change the environment so that that it doesn't even come up. If you're abstaining from alcohol, don't have a liquor cabinet. What a concept, right? So, and whatever else that you're setting forth as an outcome, don't set yourself up for a loss. One thing that I think is alluring to people is to say what they're doing is hard. Because it somehow up-levels their commitment to it, because this is... No, it's not hard to do. It's only as hard as you want it to be. Or as easy as you want it to be. It's up to us as to how we set ourselves up, but the idea of setting up temptation is really counterintuitive to trying to accomplish anything. All right. Create and follow your plan of action. The outcome that you seek is wonderful, and it's out there, months or maybe even years away. And your intention is to get to it. So you set specific intentions for when that will happen. You understand the specifics of what that is made up of. You've done that work. But then you have to kind of do that reverse planning to know what the stages are so you can identify them. What are the stages that you're going to have to go through? What are the medium steps before you've achieved this outcome? If there's none, then probably you should get this done tomorrow. But if it is something that's going to take you longer, I've certainly been doing that with this speaking process, is working on this website, figuring out what needs to be there, understanding the contractual aspects of that kind of relationship. Knowing how to set up my finances and my books and all the other things that are involved in that. Which social media to be on, that one actually came into this process. You know, where do I want exposure so that people can find me easily? LinkedIn is the thing they told me I had to do. Know nothing about LinkedIn, but I've saved about 100 invitations to LinkedIn that will all get activated at once. So, whatever it is that you're moving forward in, you really need that plan of the steps. Now, will they change? Yes, of course they'll change, and you'll modify them. But by having that you know what your short-term intention is. What's the first thing that's going to get done? And once you've got that and that's handled, then what's the next thing? And somehow what this brings to it is an additional dimension. Yes, you're definitely intending to have that outcome that's out there 18 months away. But having these interim steps to take makes it more real, because you can see you've made your progress. When I go to the website's still in process, it's still being developed. But I go there just to look at it and say, okay, this is my website. And that motivates me maybe to make suggestions about how to shift things or what I'm going to do in this certain part, and that's all good. That makes it more real. Especially when Brian said, you can go out in the world and do this when you have a website. So that's an easy step to figure out that I got to have. And everything else that I've got to do to be ready so that I look like a professional when I do this. So that my conversations with potential clients, with clients, are show that I have the expertise to do this. So that's the work. And you've got something like that going on in your world too. Somehow having that planning is going to help make it real. Yes, Jane?
You have a very specific goal.
That's all outcomes are specific. That's the
very
point.
Concrete. However, what if you have, it's like it's not a clear goal.
Then you're going to work on it and get it clear. That's the first work, and that's good. It's not a bad thing to have some vagueness there, but that's telling you that you want to make it more real. You want to develop it in mind, in your thinking. And once you do that, because you can't get to a vague place. There's no vagueness out there to go to.
Yeah,
Really? Really. So what you want to do instead is work on becoming specific with it so that it demonstrates to you that you're in control of this, that you're creating it, that this is your project. You may be getting all kinds of help from the universe, but still you're in charge. Your consciousness is driving it.
So so what I should do is work on having it become specific.
Exactly. That's your word. That's your word. And think about when you do that, how different it feels.
Yeah.
How much clearer it gets, how much more real it gets when you do that.
Yeah.
And still you're in the level of mind. It's not that which could mean all kinds of things are happening, but just the feeling of that, just being in that idea of it more clearly makes it more real. And that's what you want. Okay?
Okay.
Create and follow your action plan. And this thing has stopped again. Okay. Well, that's certainly a problem. It's not so good. But would somebody go plug that in for me?
There you go.
This is important. From the time that wherever you are at this moment to where you want to be, it's not going to happen if you're not really paying attention. Because you get distracted, because there are temptations, because you had this stuff to do and it didn't quite get done the way you would like it to have gotten done. This is not about judging yourself. This is about knowing where you are. You must know where you are. If you don't know where you are, you don't have a path to get to where you want to be. So by monitoring how your progress, and saying, and celebrating the wins and engaging the things that haven't worked out, you're actually making incredible progress. Always. Not wishy-washy, be honest with yourself. Not in judgment, but be honest with yourself. And that'll help you through it. Create new patterns of behavior. Do you know what patterns of behavior are?
Yes.
Habits. Habits. You want habits. You don't want the same old habits you've had all along, though. So how do you change from the habits that aren't supporting what you want to do and the habits that you want? The point of this is that if you commit to a change in how you handle something, the first thing you have to be is completely conscious as you're doing it. The reason that we have habits that don't support us is we go brain dead, we go comatose. We don't think about what we're doing. You know, some people have for 20, 30 years had a cup of coffee and a cigarette at the same time. They don't know how to do one without the other. You know, that kind of thing. Those are unconscious habits of things that you do. And those don't serve you anymore. Maybe they did at one time. Those that don't serve you, you have to consciously change. You've got to pay attention to what you're doing when you do it. And when you create that different thing that you want to be a habit, it's not a habit now. It's a single action. But that's the thing you want to become as a pattern in your life, to be habitual about, is this thing that you're not doing right now. So you have to be very conscious of doing it. You have to set everything down and focus on that and create that in your life. And when you do, and you do it long enough, they say 28 days is it, I don't know. But if you do it long enough, it becomes your habit. And then you don't have to think about it. But until then, you do, every time you do it. Certainly being on a different food plan has done that with me. Make contingency plans is number 10. Now, that may sound somewhat negative to some of you, but it's not meant to be that. It's meant to say that the more, this thing of developing your plan, if you can foresee possible things that wouldn't work, don't be afraid of them. Don't think that you're bringing them more fully into your mind if it's a problem, because the problem is not the focus. The challenge that you can imagine is not the focus. It's what you would do if that happened. Like when we were building this place and we ran out of money. We had no contingency plan. And I've never been so stressed in my life, thinking, well, we're not going to get to finish? And it happened twice too, so we have a pattern. And in both cases, it worked out because we didn't stay in that place of not knowing, but it would have been easier had we had a contingency plan. If I had said to our banker, so if we run out of money, are you going to help us? The first one would have said yes, the second would have said no, but I would have known. I would have known. So contingency plans just make you more well informed. It doesn't mean necessarily that thing's going to happen. Chances are, 99 out of 100 it wouldn't happen. But think about it and say, what would I do if that happened? And have that plan in your mind. That if things go this way, this is what we're going to do. And then let it go. And don't hold on to that, because if you ever need it, it'll show back up. You won't forget that you had a plan and what it was. But at the same time, you won't be surprised and shocked and off balance when it happens. Okay. Those are your 10 things to look at. Now, I had kind of an issue with this willpower in that it didn't sound that much different than self-control. But apparently it is. So here's what I learned about willpower in preparing for this class. Willpower represents the psychological energy that one uses to resist temptations in order to achieve desired outcomes. Self-control depends on, this is interesting, self-control depends on a limited resource that operates like a string. A limited resource. Willpower is a limited resource. And that fits perfectly into principle. Because Holmes told us not to try to accomplish things with willpower. What I've learned about willpower is that it's just an exertion of energy to not accept a temptation and go in a direction that will not get you where you want to go. That's basically what it is. It's not that strong. Actually, your imagination is stronger than your willpower. Your ability to imagine, you read the story in the book about the skyscraper climber.
Right.
His imagination took over. this could work out very poorly for me. I could die. And the whole idea of letting your imagination, which is so powerful and so useful in so many ways, take you down a path you don't want to go. And all you've got to fight it with is willpower? I don't think so. That's not going to work very well. I'll stop soon. So here's what I'll take out a piece of paper. Take out a piece of paper and a pen. We're going to do a quick exercise. So here's the answer to how to not get caught up in a willpower situation. And that is really a conservation of energy. And it's called doing one thing at a time. So, and I have a Plato quote for you. Do one thing and do it well, is what Plato said. How many of you think you're good multitaskers? All right, all right. So I have a task for you. Don't write anything down yet, okay? Can you read that? Virginia's below.
Is that Virginia or Virginia?
Virgin. Yeah.
It's their slogan too.
That's numbers from 1 to 19. Okay? So when I get my timer here, I want all of you, again, to write your those exact things on your paper.
Okay.
And so it's Virginia's for Lovers, 1 through 19. And I'm going to give you the word go, and when you are complete, raise your hand, and I'll start calling you out at the time. So we're ready to go? Ready? Go. Raise your hand when you're done. 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Okay, whatever you, when you raise your hand, the number I was saying, and the amount of seconds that it took you to do that. Write that down. How many seconds did it take?
I don't know you, but you count me.
Put down 30. Okay, we're going to do it again now. Not yet, because you're going to do it a little differently. This time, what you're going to do is you're going to go from the two things, the numbers and the letters, back and forth as you write them down. So you're going to write, don't write it down yet, I haven't said go. V, you write down a V, a 1, an I, a 2, an R, a 3, a G, 4, okay? And it's going to look the same, okay? You ready? Go. Okay, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. Okay, you can stop.
Yeah.
Who did it faster the first time? Isn't that nice how you all raise your hands? The second time you were multitasking,
Yeah, sure.
or what some people call switch tasks.
Yeah.
That was good.
It's not as good.
No, I mean, it's a good
Yeah,
exercise.
the fact is that you are much more effective doing one thing at a time. That's where you get your work done. That's where, and creating willpower has that. So 5 quick ways to increase your willpower. Oh, no. Huh? I want to share a little bit more information. I'm trying to finish up here. Average number of conscious thoughts you have in a day. Who knows?
65,000.
4,000. Average number of interruptions to a typical workday. Distraction. 43. Average loss of time from multitasking. 28%. Because you're trying to do two things or more at once. Never works out better. Multitasking, we did that. Ways to increase your willpower. One, learn to manage stress. Stress is the biggest problem with having willpower. Remember, willpower was a limited resource. If you're stressed, you wear yourself out, and then you don't manage yourself well. So manage your stress. Stick to your plan. We talked about that before. Have a plan. Stick to it. Get more sleep. Actually, if you don't get a full 8 hours of sleep at night, you're actually sleep deprived, and it has a major effect on how you're living your life and the choices you're making. It's amazing. I've just been reading about that. It's just quite amazing. Meditate 5 minutes a day. No. 5 minutes? Yes. 5 minutes a day. Settles your mind down enough to make a difference in your stress level, makes a difference in your ability to function. Meditate 5 minutes a day, and you don't have to do it forever. Just a couple of months of doing 5 minutes a day can totally change how you function in the world. Eat better food. I guess that's going to come up a lot, huh? Apparently it helps you by being properly eating. Your ability to process things is much easier in your mental activity. Okay. What do you know?
Yeah.
More information. All right, cool.
Hi, everybody. I'm sure you had a wonderful time going through this material with us tonight. And I shall know that there's something wonderful that's touched your heart, that's made a difference in your life, and that you can use every day. So as we always do at the end of our classes, we go through our increased income treatment again. So I want to invite you to join me in this and to speak from your heart, to know that this is the truth of your being and that your life is exactly as prosperous and full and rich as you want it to be. So let's say our treatment together aloud. I, John, know that God is the source of all supply and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word, which I speak in faith, knowing, now activates universal law, and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now, and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class, and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good, and so it is. And with that, go have a fantastic week.